Is it okay if I go into detail here? Like
Yeah.
stating from the actual events that happened in my
Yeah,
last
no
relationship.
worries. As long as you're okay with other people hearing that, it's fine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was getting toxic nung na-realize ko na parang in my mind, I was saying na I can't live without this person. Parang,
Whoa, what? Especially you're one of those people who actually gave relationship advices too. I remember that. Like you were that friend that people
I
would
was
go
that
to,
person.
although you were
Even though I
even,
wasn't in a relationship when we were
exactly.
really close back then.
Hi guys, it's Yoon and welcome to episode 7. And today we're starting a new topic and it's toxicity with relationships. And my good friend Mary is going to help me open this topic. So Mary, introduce yourself. Who are you? Do you work? Are you studying? What's up?
Hey guys, so I am married to Tejada. I am currently studying at FEU for Eastern University Manila as a marketing management student. And me and Eunice have been friends for almost, I counted earlier, like 10 years, ever since grade 5.
Wow.
Yeah, 10
Right.
years. That's a lot. Wow,
That's a
we've
long
known each
time.
other, all our faces in our teen life.
Exactly. From preteen to, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to share a disclaimer before we go into it. Someone close to me emphasized that I should say that the conversations that we have, the opinions that we might not share the same opinions, but since we are good friends, we do respect it. So if you
Yeah.
guys see me or see her agreeing in a certain way, it's not necessarily we're agreeing, but this is not a debate, but it's more of a discussion between friends to help other people. So this also applies to the previous episodes. If I said something that you guys might think is contradicting to what I say in outside of the talk, it's not. I'm just being respectful out of the opinion of my friends, and not all their opinions really reflect mine or I agree with them. Anyway, going back, you were talking about our friendship, so it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Wow. I actually remember, I have a first memory of you. I don't know if you remember it too, though.
Okay, go. Shoot
All
your
right.
shot. Clear that memory.
So it was literally the first day of that school. I'm not gonna mention the name, but it was the first day, like the actual first day. You know how it was new and everything. So it was the first day, and we were together in the morning assembly. Kind of, you were in
Yeah,
front of
we're
me.
in the same time.
We were in the same class, and you were in front of me during the morning assembly. And you were the one that approached me. You were like, "Hi, hello. I was from a international school." So you were like,
Oh,
all like that.
you never
And
asked
I
me,
was,
pero I introduced myself agad.
yeah.
Wow,
I was like,
the
I was just
confidence.
shocked. Exactly. You've been like that ever since. But I was like, um, and me coming from homeschool, I was just like kind of shocked, like, oh, is this how we interact? This people just like introduce themselves. I'm like, huh. But yeah, I think you were technically my first friend in
Yeah,
that.
actually, you were my first
Yeah,
friend in Filipino
yeah,
school.
yeah, in that
Became
Filipino school. Yeah, and that was interesting. That's all I really. Of course, I would like to mention because I have to mention this to embarrass you, but you had that highlight. Yes, that
yeah, I
one
had
streak
that
highlight. That
one straight
vlog.
high.
I do
Yeah,
not know how you were not scolded for it. Like, why were you not scolded for it? You
I
had it
have no
throughout the
idea.
year. It
Yeah,
was.
kasi
It was.
somehow that school was very strict, like in terms of appearance. Kasi sa mga boys, like hindi sila yung pwede mag.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had that one highlight. I guess it was when I introduced myself to teachers. Like I said, I came from international school. Ganito, ganito.
Mm-hmm.
So parang I guess they thought it was a norm. Like it was
It's.
normal
I
for
guess.
it.
I guess they were. You know. I wait. If I remember correctly, that school opened as an international school at first. It actually opened up as an international school at first.
Actually, I
That's
can't.
some. It's all right.
I
Anyway, so
knew it was Filipino school for me. I don't know.
I see. Makes sense. But I remember it was they tried to make it international. That's why the principals were American at one point.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
that time.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that is a bit about of us. We were close. At one point, we were best friends, but then we just had different friend groups. No
Yeah.
toxicity actually there. It just like naturally we just drifted apart, and we're quite okay.
It's part
Anyway,
of growth.
It is, it is. Anyway, so today's topic is about relationships. Now, we've talked
Ooh.
about in the previous episodes, we talked about family relationships, we talked about friends relationships. Now we're going to talk about romantic ones, not necessarily the platonic ones or the like the, familial relationships. And I think you guys are excited too because everyone's like relationship.
I
It's a
am not
hype.
excited.
Me neither, but yeah, it's something that people love to talk about, listen about. Yeah, it's something that I actually want to emphasize later on how toxic that kind of is, how we Filipinos ourselves talk about it way too much. Anyway, so we're gonna talk about that. And now I would like to ask you, like I've asked all my other guests, what is toxicity for you? Define it in your own words.
Well, toxicity for me is when your partner, okay, specifically your partner, stops you from growing into your own person that you want to be. And for you, hindi mo mapapansin sa una na ganun yung nagiging setup nyo. But since you're in a relationship and you think that being scolded or being somehow limited to your actions is actually healthy for the relationship, maisip mo na it's for you and for your partner. So, yun nga, you couldn't even interpret in the first place that it's toxic. And that's where manipulation comes in. What
That's
produces
so
the
true.
You're being somehow brainwashed. And if it's on an individual aspect, like how am I toxic in a relationship, I guess I would do the same thing. Like I wouldn't allow myself to grow because I believe that toxicity is also somehow covered as love. That's what I believe it is. You're unaware, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's more of the idea, especially if you don't know. If it's like, usually first relationships are the most toxic ones, I'd like to say, because you don't really know what's the best way to be in a relationship.
It's the most toxic one. Yeah, it's the most toxic ones because you believe that it's the love that will last even though it's not.
Because we are brought up naman talaga to have that one, the one. We all, like date to marry, stuff like that. Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons why it becomes toxic, because of this idea that no, it has to be them already. I don't want to go through, yes. But yeah, I agree. So one of the ways, even outside of a relationship, toxicity is basically a place where you do not grow, or you don't allow yourself. You're not exploring new things. You're just like surrounded in a box. You're just boxing yourself into this. You're limiting yourself. That's what toxicity could be, and I like that. And now moving on. So in the previous episodes with my other friends, I talked about toxicity with different relationships. So if there's something different, is there, like, would you say that some toxicities only happen during a romantic relationship, or would you say overall it's the same with other kind of relationships?
I guess toxicity when it comes into a relationship, it actually brings a different form. Like kasi we experience love sa family natin, sa friends natin in a different manner. But when it comes to relationships, it's very different kasi of course, I think open naman yung people dito, like even 16 years old and above, open sila sa fact na there's this sexual tension in romantic, of course. And that's what makes this kind of relationships, romantic relationships, different, is because some people, or let's say even me, we use that tension for our advantage, take advantage of the other person without even noticing it. Parang yun nga,
I see.
sometimes in romantic relationships, parang you get to get a grasp of the person's emotional weaknesses and strengths. Malalaman mo talaga parang, alam mo yung usual na pag nagbe-break up na, they would say now, pag iniwan mo ako, papatay ko sa sarili ko, ganon. And that doesn't usually happen in family relationships.
Yes, true.
Mas prevalent talaga siya sa mga
it
ganun
actually is
romantic relationships na parang yun nga, idadamay talaga yung buhay mo. And
true.
Yeah, how toxic it gets in romantic relationships. You really take
so
advantage.
There is a difference.
Yeah.
I see. And actually, when you said those things, I was like, oh, that brought a few memories. Yeah, I don't want to go back to that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think we have to, just to help other people, that you can get over it. That's one of our goals, to help others get over it. Anyway, so you said that sexual tension. I never, now it made more sense. And I feel like it feels more valid for the friends that I've heard it for. I never like
Mhm.
truly understood what it meant. And now I'm like, right, that does make sense. Like, because some people be like, especially, they could also use it as an excuse. As, let's say their love
This is
language
just,
is physical touch. They could
yeah.
use it as, when in fact they don't actually have to do anything that
Mm-mm.
way, And now I say, that actually makes perfect sense, that you could use that as a way to take advantage. Wow, that's pretty
Sometimes
scary though.
people just go through. Sometimes people just kumakagat na lang sila sa
Mm.
manipulation and that toxicity
Mm-hmm.
because yun nga, what if their love language is
Mm.
physical
Yeah.
and the person would threat the other person na i-deprive nila sila of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's already
Yeah,
toxicity
exactly.
itself. You're playing with the person's emotions and their weaknesses. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
difference between romantic relationships and family and friends.
Mm-hmm. And I agree that there is a difference. I do also believe that when you go into a relationship, sometimes how like you be more exposed of who you are. Like
Yeah.
there's this whole layer of like identity that nobody else sees, but then this person that you love, you show this. And sometimes they take that as an advantage, like your vulnerable state, they use it against you. And they
Yep.
also just pick on your insecurities, because something that Kyla also mentioned previously is that toxicity also stems from insecurities. And I do believe that also happens in relationships, that when you're not in a healthy one, instead of helping you through the insecurity, they actually add on, or maybe even make a new insecurity in you. That's something that I personally experienced, and that was hard. I did ever like I knew I had insecurities, but then a certain person just added more, and I was just like, whoa, that's possible, that a
Yeah,
person
they
could
made you
actually,
think that it was already an existing insecurity when
Mm-hmm.
in fact they just added more. Though
Mm-hmm.
it didn't exist.
Exactly. Anyway, so how did you realize it was getting toxic? Because as you mentioned, it's kind of hard to realize it, right? Because there's this blind, like the term love is blind comes into this, where you think that it's out of love that you're doing this. No, because I want to stay with them forever. So I have to give this up. I have to stay here, there. So how did you realize it was getting toxic when you thought it was normal, or you thought it was love?
Is it okay if I go into detail here, like
Yeah.
stating from the actual events that happened in my
Yeah,
last
no
relationship?
worries. As long as you're okay with other people hearing that, it's fine.
Okay, so I found out or I realized that my relationship was getting toxic with my last ex from 3 years ago when I started relying on my own self-worth sa kanya. And like it came to a point where there were in relationships there were so many petty fights. Pero
Mm-hmm.
naayos naman siya agad. Like the goal
Mm-hmm.
of the team to ayusin agad lahat ng mga problema hanggat kaya. Pero in that relationship, like even the smallest fights would turn into something really big. I mean, for me, it's very small. For other people, it's very small. Kasi somehow I have to ask my friends about, what should I do and everything. But when I started feeling na parang every time we fought, I felt like I was always the person that was wrong. When in fact, after the relationship, hindi pala talaga. Like, it was getting toxic nung na-realize ko na parang in my mind, I was saying na I can't live without this person. Parang I always agreed to every time na sinasabi sa akin na dapat ayusin ko yung sarili ko. And when I asked what's wrong with me, what should I change, parang yun nga, I would accept constructive criticisms in relationship. Pero all the answers that I was left was parang sasabihin sa akin when I ask normally is, ikaw lang makakasagot niyan, alamin mo. So like, syempre, if you see that there's a problem with me, in a relationship, I would like to ask kung ano yun. Syempre, parang baka hindi ko nakita, ganon. And
It could
it's
be
okay.
like your blind spot. You actually don't know.
Yeah, communication is the
Mm-hmm.
key. Like as I always say nung dati sa mga past relationships ko. Pero yun nga, I knew it was getting toxic when I feel like every movement, every decision that I make was always wrong. Like
Mm-hmm.
in every aspect or every conversation, I feel like there's something wrong with me. Pero when in fact na hindi naman totally fault ko lagi. And every time that we would fight, I would always be the person to fix it, even though that it was not entirely my fault. Kasi yun nga, in relationships, it always takes two to tango. Hindi naman pwede ikaw lagi gumagawa.
Mm-hmm.
Hindi pwedeng lagi ikaw yung nag-work. And then yeah, it came to a point na I knew it was really going downhill, that the relationship was getting toxic, na nung na-realize ko na I was losing focus on my own friends and family. Parang I let my
Mm-hmm.
world revolve around that relationships. Within that relationship na hindi naman talaga dapat. Yeah, that's how I realized it was
Wow.
getting out of hand na talaga.
Mm-hmm. So from to like sum it up in a shorter way is that you lost your identity. You were losing who
Yeah.
you were, because like how
I
you are
didn't
with
believe that I
people.
was actually a good
Mm-hmm.
person in that
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
You were losing all these things that made you you because you're basing off who they said you were. And
Mm-mm.
to them, you were a bad person apparently based on their observations. And since you loved them, you thought it was true because we're taught that if somebody loves you, they'll tell you the bad stuff about you, which is true naman. But there are
Yun
times
naman.
that people use that as a advantage. Suddenly, like everything about you is wrong. Wow, that's actually really hard. Yeah. Well,
And there were
I'm
actually,
glad.
I'm sorry.
Go.
There
No,
were
go on.
actually some times na I was being blamed. Like parang may sinisisi sa akin na mali, na parang it's made up stories like, hey, you cheated on me, ganito, you were doing this behind my back, when in fact I wasn't. Pero I still said sorry.
Whoa.
I still said sorry for it, just for the sake of saving the relationship, even though na
Mhm.
hindi na necessary at that point, because I was being blamed
Oh.
for na hindi ko naman ginagawa.
And that is quite hard, especially because you're not just it's not just destroying the relationship itself, but it's also just destroying you because you
Yeah.
were admitting to things that weren't you. And of course, since you were admitting to it, there's this part of you that's like, maybe I did do it. Maybe I, for some reason, because you're acknowledging, you're apologizing. I'm really sorry that you went through that. That's wow. But I'm glad you're here though. I'm happy that you're doing better, hopefully. Yeah. From
Yes,
what
I
I've
am.
seen, you are doing better. That's great. That's great. No, on my side though, just to share, so you're not alone with sharing vulnerable stories, I will share mine as well. So for me, so technically, I wasn't able to identify it myself alone, just because for me, I had this, ideal that, what, love conquers everything. Like, what, all the fights, anything could, we could fight through it. Maybe this is just a normal fight, like
Mhm.
there was that in my head that there's no argument, no fight that we cannot work out on. We can't, and I actually had to literally be out of the relationship, as in I was out of the country to finally realize that it was toxic because I was far away from the person. I could not see them. I could not like actually talk to them. Like I had to have time alone. That's only when I realized that I was toxic, especially when I talked to my friends. That was what
Yeah.
helped me too. Because I was telling them all the things and they were like, what? Something that I would do before was that I love telling stories, but later on, so the person that I was with, they just became this kind of person that was like, I don't feel good if you tell your friends me about them. Like they didn't want me to tell the stories. They felt uncomfortable. They thought that I might say something bad and my friends might think of them badly. So I was like, oh, okay, then I won't tell them. So I wasn't able to tell them the problems because for them, in their perspective, they were like, you shouldn't tell people our problems. You're supposed to just keep
Yeah,
it between us. And I was like, I thought that made sense at the time. But then later on, as now, what I know now
I
is that it's
relate to
actually good. It's actually good to not tell everyone, of course not. But when you do tell certain people, the friends that you have will actually help you through it as well. They'll push you. If they see that the relationship is good for you, they'll also be an advocate for your partner as well. They'll be like, hey, maybe you're being too hard on them. Maybe
Mhm.
your friends will generally help you out as well. They won't just be biased and listen to your side. But yeah, that was how I felt. They made me feel that I couldn't share. And then when I afterwards I told my friends, they were like, that was really toxic. And I was like, really?
Yeah,
And then they told me and I was like, oh. And I was like, and then later on, though, the part it kind of hurt because you know how like you're the person who takes care of other people with their relationships, and then suddenly you're
you
in
take
a
care
relationship.
of your.
You're
Yeah,
right. It was kind of like, wait, how did I not see this coming? I was telling my friends and this. So yeah, that was for me personally. I couldn't see it myself. Like personally, I had to see it outside from my friends, from people around me. They saw like they were like they would mention like I have like friends that are like little sisters, little brothers. So they're like, you know what, Ate, you were different with them. It was like you were so closed off now. You wouldn't talk to us as often. You wouldn't hang out with us as often. I was
yeah,
like, huh? And I was like, really? I thought I was still making time for you. And then to them, they were like, no, you were
no,
spending too much time with them. I was like, really? And I was like, oh no. And then yeah, that was hard, because it's not just within your relationship. The toxicity is
it,
also it goes out to different
yeah, I relate to
relationships.
that. I never even
Mhm.
realized that I was when I was in that relationship, I spent all of my time with that person. Tapos yun nga,
Mhm.
lately parang kinall out ako ng friends ko na parang we never really got to talk nung
Mhm.
during that time of that relationship. Kasi
Mhm.
I was always with
Exactly.
that. For me, that
Yeah.
was love. Yeah. But I actually
Mhm.
lost time for other people who I'm
Mm.
supposed to prioritize sa buhay ko, which is my
Mhm.
friends and family. Yun.
Exactly. And I relate so much. Wow, we actually went through similar things.
Yeah.
I hope for the both of us we don't experience that ever again. No.
Of course, of course.
Of course. So of course the relationship ended. The relationship ended, but did the toxicity end as well? If it did, then that's great. But if not, why? Why did it not end?
For me, it did not end. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
felt like ano, all the toxicity that happened in our relationship projected sa sarili kong personality even after.
Mm.
So how did that happen? Well, everything that she blamed on me when we were still together, um, nagawa ko siya pero after our relationship. Like, kumbaga lahat ng mga bagay na sinisi niya sa akin, I actually did that after our relationship. Parang
Mm.
it made me believe na, okay, ganito ako
You
eh.
were that kind of person, so I
With
might as well do it.
yeah. Parang hindi ko naman sinabi na, okay, I should do it. Ganon. Parang
Mm.
consciously it happened. Parang
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
just this one day that I realized after months of our breakup na parang everything that person told me, parang I was actually doing it. And that's how I realized na the
Mm.
toxicity didn't end there. It just progressed to my own personal beliefs. It clouded me in a way na parang it was so
Mm-hmm.
hard to get out. Kasi that's what I believe. That's what that person made me believe that I was. Yun.
Mm-hmm. I get it. Wow. Same. It's also the same for me. For me, afterwards, because all the insecurities that they, added on, it just afterwards, it just felt like it enhanced. It just
Yeah.
felt like everything. You know what? They're right. So of course I'd like to share. So you remember back in school, I had this low key reputation within our batch that I was, for some reason, a flirt, right? That was something that was there in our batch. That I'm already okay with that. I was already okay with it. And then of course, this person becoming really close to me, I told them about the story about how during my time when I was in school, a lot of my friends called me, or like quote quote was my friends called me a flirt behind my back because apparently I was too friendly with guys. But back
Yeah.
then, people, like at that time, I understand that now, if those same people were to look at it, they would also understand, oh wait, she was just being friendly and not flirty. But back then, we
Actually.
didn't know the difference either. We didn't know the difference back then either. But yeah, so I told this person this struggle, and then later on when we were fighting, they brought it up and they were like, you know what, they're right. The people that said you, and he was like making it look like as if I was actually a flirt, because
Yeah.
I had good guy friends. Like I would tell him, hey, I hung out with this guy friend today, stuff like that, and he would make it look like as if I did something wrong when I really didn't do anything wrong. And like if you were
Mm.
to talk to my guy friend, all I was talking about was you. Like I wasn't even doing anything besides thinking about you. Like I was just like telling them that, hey, you know what, this my boyfriend is like this, and then they would, and then I tell them, and they're like, and I'm like, wait, what? So you think? So there's that idea. You think that I'm flirting with other guys,
Mm-hmm.
and then he put that insecurity when I had when I was back in that school, when people, he brought that back up. I thought I was over it, but for some amazing reason he was able to make me feel like I was back in that
Yeah.
time where I was a flirt. I guess another part is the hard part is when all the mistakes has happened. Like for me, when they brought that up, they never apologized for bringing it up in that way during a fight. So did the person who hurt you ever apologize for anything?
Yeah. Actually, the hardest part is that person never apologized for
Mm-hmm.
what they. I guess siguro nga kasi they didn't realize it. It was
Yeah.
that was their effect on me, or yun yung iniwan
Mm-hmm.
nila na mark sa akin. I never
Mm-hmm.
got an apology from that, pero I can happily say that I recovered from it,
That's
regardless if
great.
there was an apology or not. And how did I recover from it? Wala, I just had to swallow that hard pill na not everyone's gonna apologize for what they did
Mm-hmm.
kasi maybe they're not aware of it. And
Mm-hmm.
okay, hindi ko na kasalanan kung hindi sila aware. So I
Mm-hmm.
just had to suck it up and accept na parang not all people will give you the apology they deserve. And what I can do from that is just, focus on myself. Focus on
That's
what makes
great.
me happy. And yeah, that somehow made me realize na hindi pala talaga akong ganung tao. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
accept na hindi ko talaga matatanggap lahat ng salita na gusto ko marinig. Especially if
Mm-hmm.
it's an apology. Pero yun, yeah, it's not my loss rin naman. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
accept the fact that the world can't give you everything that you want. That's how I
Exactly.
done as well.
So that's great that you were able to recover. I'm really happy for you. That's amazing
Think
that you remembered who you are and accepted these things. And that's
it
really
actually,
hard.
yeah, it actually took me. Well, I felt like I was in hell the time that I
Mm-hmm.
was moving on because I did so many stupid stuff
Mm-hmm.
during the phase that I was moving on from that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I even hurt some people along the way. I really regret it. I really
Mm-hmm.
regret how I let all those things happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it does take time. It
It
does
does
take
take
time
time.
for some people. But regardless of how hard it was, I'm still thankful na I went through that pain kasi somehow it shaped me to the person who I am today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Because I guess for some people really don't want to get hurt, right? No one wants to go through this. But yeah, something that I want to add is that it must have been hard though, because of course there'll be days that you felt like you didn't have progress, right? There will be days, oh wait,
Yeah.
I was doing so well, and then you do something bad again. How was that? How would you recover during that time of trying to fully, how would you get back up and say, no, I am doing progress? How did you push yourself to say, yes, I am healing, because that's hard, because at times you'll relapse or some sort.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say that that specific relationship was
Mm-hmm.
traumatizing for me, and it affected so many relationships in the present, or let's say potential
Mm-hmm.
relationships I had after that. It made me believe that I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this kind of
Mm-hmm.
love, this kind of attention, everything. But I guess what made me really move forward was yun nga, acceptance na even though you've been a really good person to other people, even though na it's not completely my fault, bad things are gonna happen to you. But ang importante is maniwala ka sa sarili mo na what other people say or what other people, kung ano man yung pinipilit nila na sa'yo, na ganito yung pagkatao mo, just believe in yourself even more. Doon ako mas nakapag-move on and maka-move forward. Just, simply believing in yourself. Na you can be anyone who you want, but you can never let other people dictate who you should be and who you are, lalo na kung in a negative aspect yun.
Wow, that's really amazing. I wish I talked to you after my breakup, because it took me a while to really realize those things for myself, because that was hard. It was actually hard. There are times, just to ask, are there times that you still kind of feel hurt, or are you fully covered, you're fully well now?
Honestly, some days I still feel really hurt, and it makes me relapse. Pero yun nga, I guess since it's a traumatizing experience, hindi mo talaga siya matatanggal sa system mo. Somehow,
fully, not fully.
Serves as a reminder na, okay, kahit ano man sinabi niya sa akin in the past, naniniwala ako na I'm not that person anymore, and I never became that person. Dahil lang, yun yung mga pinilit na beliefs sa akin. Yeah, somehow I just had to accept na ganun yung treatment sa akin dati. Pero now, yeah, it's sad. It's sad every time I remember it. Sometimes there are even some nights that I cry about it. Pero wala, I can't bring that back. I can't, somehow turn things upside down. Honest sa akin na lang talaga, I just have to accept na ganun yung nangyari. But I can move forward.
That's good. I'm really happy. Like, I'll emphasize that enough, because knowing you and knowing how amazing you are as a person, just hearing that you got hurt like that was, whoa.
I was that person relationship advice. I don't know why.
Yeah. And they're still accurate naman. They're still applicable until today. It's not, it wasn't just like feeling like you knew stuff, like feeling deep or anything. No, it was actual applicable. So yeah, so I'm really happy for that. So of course, now that you've seen how bad things can get in a relationship, of course now you'll set boundaries. So what are boundaries that you've now set, that if you were potentially going into one, or when you like someone, what are things that you look in a person like, okay, these are my boundaries. If I already see like red flags, what are those?
I guess the boundaries that you can set when you get in a relationship is, before getting in a relationship, guys, you should really know who you are as a person. You should know what you believe in. You should know your morals, your beliefs, everything. Kasi kapag kilala mo yung sarili mo and tanggap mo that that's the best version of you, and you'll only accept criticisms or constructive criticisms na makakapag-improve sa'yo, you're ready to be in a relationship. Pero if you're that kind of person who gets in a relationship when you're still unsure of your identity, mahirap. Kasi everything that the person that you love or that the person that you're in a relationship will say, talagang yun yung paniniwalaan mo kasi mahal mo yun ako eh. Pero if you love yourself more sa relationship na yun, you'll never lose yourself. Kasi ako siguro ngayon, what I always tell to myself na if ever I get into a relationship, what's important is I know myself, and I always have myself at the end of the day. I should never rely on my own happiness or my path as a person, my career sa tao na yun. I'm good to go. Kasi what happened in my last relationship was somehow I relied my future on that person. On their opinion and everything. Lahat sinunod ko. Pero hindi ko sinunod yung sarili ko kasi I thought that person was better. You should always be with a person who makes you feel like na kung sino ka ngayon, kaya mo pa i-improve yan. Pero hindi nila ipaparamdam sa'yo kulang ka. Like, exactly. Hindi nila ipaparamdam sa'yo na kulang ka. But they'll make you feel like na you're meant for more. Ganun.
It's more of they want to build you up.
Positivity.
I love that. That's amazing. And so it really also depends on who you are, how you set boundaries rin talaga. Because like everyone's different. So one of the ways to set boundaries is know what you like, what you dislike, and having a firm that makes sense. And I think people who are just like, I don't know, there's certain relationship goal ideas that people think that are nice or
Mm.
healthy when in fact they're not.
Yeah, that's the problem with
Um,
this generation. Masyado
mm-hmm,
tayong we believe so much in fairy tales. Which,
mm-hmm,
okay, go lang. That's okay. Pero yun nga, never. I hope na people don't lose sight of reality. Yun nga.
exactly.
Kasi relationships are very realistic and very ups and downs and everything. That's
Mm-hmm,
why easily affected the mga tao sa relationships. Kasi that's their somehow comfort zone. It's not always gonna be
mm-hmm,
comfortable in a relationship.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's really gonna push you to your limits. And pero ang good side naman is you'll grow as long
mm-hmm,
as you know who you are and you know your
exactly.
place. You know there's clear boundaries, there's clear goals sa relationship niyo. It's not all lovey-dovey naman kasi
Mm-hmm,
lalo na
exactly.
pag matanda tayo, marirealize mo talaga na
Mm-hmm,
hindi laro.
true. And because I think for us, I see a lot how like, oh, they're so open with me, they share everything, and I'm like, okay, that's good for you, but it doesn't necessarily mean works for everyone. Because
Yeah.
setting boundaries is not like, it's different when you're really closed off and you don't want to trust your partner. That's a different thing. That's not setting a boundary, that's them not wanting to be open. But setting a boundary does not mean you don't trust the person. It's just that you
Mm.
respect yourself. You want to still keep the sense of me. It's not, because in a relationship I do believe it's not like half and half. It has to be two wholes coming together. Because if it's half and half, then you're trying to fill each other up when you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be two people helping each other as wholes na, not as to like complete each other like a puzzle piece. Because that's actually a
Mm.
lot that, you know, if
There's
I
a lot.
remember when we were younger, you know how like what was this, You and I, that song, it was like such a popular song back
You
then.
and I
And
could
then
be like Sunny and Cher. Like, there's always a compliment. I
yeah,
realize it's cute, but somehow
it's cute.
it projects something na parang you need another person to live.
You
Ganon.
have to be like codependent when you're not,
Ah,
you're supposed
when
to
in
be
fact,
independent people.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I recall so
Mm-hmm.
far.
That's so far exactly. Anyway, so what's advice you would give people before getting into a relationship? Like, so you've what more? So you have mentioned a few. So what more do you would like to say? Other things that you want to tackle?
My advice to people before getting into
Mm-hmm.
relationships is wala, siguraduhin nyo lang lagi na mahal nyo talaga yung sarili nyo. Like
Mm-hmm.
yung tipong kunwari, you're surrounded by friends or people who are in relationships, who are dating
Mm-hmm.
someone, talking to someone. Wala, dapat hindi kayo ma-threaten doon. Or
Mm-hmm.
huwag yung isipin na parang may mali sa inyo. Kasi some
Mm-hmm.
days, I feel, I'm that friend of all the
Mm-hmm.
friend groups na parang laging sinasabihan na, Mary, subukan mo naman na mag-jowa ka na. Mary, subukan mo na mandi ka na. Para, parang ang lagi nilang, kaya nila sinasabi daw yun. Kasi gusto nila masaya ako. That's their main
Mm-hmm.
purpose kung ba't nila ako pinupush towards a relationship. Pero kasi, may, parang I do not necessarily to be in a relationship para masabi ko masaya ako. And like, I
Mm-hmm.
would not get into a relationship kapag hindi ako masaya. That's so important. Kasi when you
Yeah,
get into a
don't do that.
relationship, when you're not happy with yourself or you're
Mm-hmm.
not happy with your achievements and everything, wala.
Mm-hmm.
Ganon, that's where toxicity starts eh. You're gonna rely
Mm-hmm.
your happiness on that person. And
Mm-hmm.
yun nga, before getting into a relationship, make sure that you're happy with who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that you know your priorities before you get into a relationship. Because you might depend your priorities and your dreams on that person na hindi naman talaga dapat. So yeah, I guess that's really my main advice. Know yourself more, love yourself
Mm-hmm.
more before getting into a relationship.
Wow, you sound like a BTS campaign. Anyway, we've actually tackled all the questions that I had, but something that I just thought of right now is, what about, of course, there are relationships that have been toxic, but then later on they become healthy. What's your opinion on that? Do you think they actually become healthy later on, or do you kind of feel like, you know, just share, like, what do you think about those kind of couples?
Yung mga tao na parang yun nga, they're in a toxic relationship, then somehow na-figure out nila. That's really good for them. That happens
Mm-hmm.
rarely. Kasi parang somehow, yun nga, you two are partners, you're in a relationship. Pero alam niyo yung tamang time kung saan magbibigay kayo ng space sa isa't isa. And by space, yung type of space that you allow each other to think, to rethink, or reevaluate sa mga bagay-bagay niyo sa buhay. Parang you're still a couple, pero hindi kayo naghihiwalay. But you give each other that alone time na kailangan. Which not all relationships can do. Kasi iniisip nila na parang, hindi, na kung may problema ka, isasama ako sa problema mo na yan, ayusin ko. That's nice. That support is nice. Pero there are some problems kasi na kailangan mag-isa lang yung ikaw sarili mo yung mag-figure out. And yeah, that's nakakatuwa yung mga ganun na relationships. Kasi that happens rarely nga. Where people or the partners give each other that parang time alone. Yun.
Exactly. Do you have any questions you would like to ask me? Anything you were curious about?
I never asked kung ano yung longest relationship.
My longest.
Yeah.
My longest one was 8 months. Yeah, it was 8 months. It wasn't. I guess we tackled a lot of things, and what I want to tackle is, here in the Philippines, it's actually quite toxic how relationships are promoted so much. Like it's as if it's supposed to be a life goal for everyone.
Yeah,
like in commercials, like Jollibee commercials. There we have that. Like it's just supposed to be a fast food, place, but no, they also promote relationships. And then, in the Philippines, there are a lot of ways. It just promotes relationships in a way that's
being in
very
relationships
toxic.
is like an achievement in the Philippines.
Right?
I hate that. I hate
it so much. It's like
it's a stigma.
It's a stigma. Yeah. I'm not hating on people who do tweet and say like, "Oh, may jowa na ako." I actually saw that today. I saw a tweet like that. It's fine, but it's more of the idea that people have to tweet it as a relationship, like a life goal, not just even a relationship, but a life goal that everyone should be in one. It makes people who are single and happy question, am I really happy? I am really happy though.
Actually, that's what I've been struggling for with some time. Pero na-realize ko na stigma.
And also there's also this like divine, like a defined standard of what relationships should look like.
Yeah.
Especially here in the Philippines, as there's like a lot of things, maybe like with how it started, like we tell love stories and be like, there has to be this courting period that has to be part of the love story. But then if somebody says, oh, we didn't actually, there was no courtship, and suddenly, how is that? Like, how did like, do they not understand there's uniqueness into different relationships? Like, it's not just even that, they like make it feel that everyone should have a standard love story, how things started, how things are, stuff like that. And I don't think a lot of us realize how toxic it actually is, because we just take it in as if like, oh, that's so cute, I would like that for me. The thing is, relationships are not supposed to be like copy paste, like whatever works for someone works for you as well, especially that's a whole different person. For us, we're so big on shipping, diba? Like there's Katniel, and like everyone's like, that's also not fair if you're like in a relationship and you're putting that pressure on your partner to be like, to be that kind of couple. That's so toxic. Like, no, you have to help each other be more unique. And that's something that I realized was like, oh, it was only later on because of course at one point I also thought that was, oh, they're so wow, they've been
They're
together
so
for such a long
cute.
time. Yeah. And I'm like later on, oh, okay. No, I don't want that anymore when you start learning.
Mm-mm.
And then they also put, I don't know, some people also emphasize how long. I understand that it does matter how long you are in a relationship, but it shouldn't show which one's more healthy, because like a relationship with like 3 months could be healthier than somebody with
Mm-mm.
3 years. And that was just something that I realized. It's just so sad that the Filipinos don't actually see it as toxic. It's just like it's in our culture. This is how we are. We all want to be, and we all just promote it as well. Like even us are like, and then for me, I while moving here, of course, in the Philippines, this is one of the things that I really like saw. And then when the breakup happened, I was like, this is not the best place to be single.
Yeah.
No.
Kasi like people are just gonna flex everything on you. Like say, fights them saying na there's something wrong with you when you're not in a relationship. When in fact, wala naman.
I just realized right now there's this backhand comment when people say, you're such an amazing person and blah, blah, blah. And then later on they say, oh, but why are you still single? And I'm like, huh? How? I don't know how to take that, right?
Exactly. Like, okay, eto kasi. Like, I don't know. I don't really think it's a compliment. It's so annoying every time na narinig kita na parang ang talino mo nga, pero wala kang jowa. Cute ka nga, pero wala kang jowa. Parang ako, is that a compliment or are you teasing me or whatever? Parang, okay. So,
and like,
it's making perfect na ang aking life. Parang ganun. Parang, why?
Exactly.
Why?
That phrasing makes you feel like, is my worth based on me being with someone? Am I supposed to like, it's only valid that you're smart when you're with someone, because you're smart because somebody likes it, somebody acknowledges it. That's why you have someone, because you know. And I'm like, no, I'm smart whether somebody acknowledges it or not. I am. But then there's those kind of like, excuse me? And then they'll be like, what? I'm like, what? That was not helpful, but okay, you do you. Yeah, what about you? What are other?
You just know that relationships these days are getting toxic when your worth is dependent on having a partner or not.
Right? So what are other things that you've noticed that is like the way it's promoted, that it's toxic?
Yun lang naman, ang tunay na kasayahan ay nasa kung meron ka bang jowa or wala.
Yeah, that is true. That's basically like the sum of it. We could talk about little details, but it just goes back to that root that they really promote, that being in a relationship makes you happy. And I'm like, no, it does not. It really does not. Anyway, to wrap things up, we really gathered a lot of things, and I'm really glad. Thank you for your time.
Really happy. Yeah.
I'm really happy too. I learned so much from you and so much of the things you went through. So thank you for sharing that. And I guess we could sum it up. So a lot of the things you said is more about learning about yourself. So before going into a relationship, you should know who you are, because like what happened to Mary, you wouldn't want to be, you don't want a person to dictate who you are, and because that's not fair. And there is a balance. There's a balance when you get criticism. It's supposed to build you up, not tear you down. And I'm really glad that you pointed those things. And I think that is it. Thank you. So the floor now is yours if you want to promote anything. Is there anything you want to promote? Any socials? Your TikTok maybe? They're really fun.
No, I don't actually want to promote my social media, pero I guess what I want to promote is that be happy in your own way. If you're happy with pursuing your passion, go lang. If you're happy in your current relationship, go lang. That's all. That's really all that I want. And yeah, just focus on being who you are as a person, discovering yourself, your own happiness. Go lang. Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay. Well, thank you once again for your time. That was wow. I didn't expect it to go like that. I feel quite
it's another
okay.
side of me that you don't know.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
though years.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, thank you for your time. And
Thank you,
there's also
Eunice.
okay, bye. Thank you for watching this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Make sure to check out my socials, my friends' socials, and Toxic Talk socials in the description below. Once again, I encourage you to ask questions that will be answered on that 19th episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you are notified when the next episode goes up. As you wait, you can check out all my YouTube videos on my channel. Take care always and stay safe. Bye!